Hi, and welcome back to the third session. Today we are going very, very far from our European and Western lands. We are going directly to the Far East in China, actually. Our guest today is European, very much European, but she decided to try an adventure and go starting and working and collaborating with a Chinese SEO digital marketing agency, Jademont Digital. And this is going to be really interesting because she's going to be somehow our reporter from another world. On the other hand, our guest is also the founder and CEO of Mosquita Digital, and she is still working with, let's say, European clients, with her own clients. And I asked to ChatGPT to give me a very playful short profile definition for her. And ChatGPT, analyzing her LinkedIn, came out with Global SEO Explorer, Digital Polyglot, Human-Centered Technologies. Yes, I know that ChatGPT sometimes hallucinates, but in this case, I don't think that it hallucinated at all. These are quite good definition for our guest today. And I'm going to present her, and I'm going to already from right now ask Natalia to forgive me because probably I'm going to pronounce incorrectly her surname. Hi, Natalia. How are you doing? Natalia Witczyk,
Very
correct?
well done. Actually, that's a very good pronunciation.
Okay,
And
perfect.
thank you for a fantastic introduction. Thank you, ChatGPT. I'm on the good books somewhere in the AI black books. I did like that introduction. Thank you.
Let's say I always do this question to all my guests, and I think it's a really good one for you because I mean you are living with one feet in one world, our Western world with your Mosquito Digital Agency, and with one feet in a world which is substantially very different, somehow going into another planet, which is the Chinese world, with your collaboration, your work with Jade Mode. Uh, how is SEO treating you on both sides of the world?
Well, it's true that I'm 2 feet in two worlds, but I have to say that my main role in China in Jademont is actually helping Chinese clients enter European and Western markets. So I'm always connecting the two in a way. I'm not just separating them. And in this sense, obviously, my work is pretty similar. It's just the way I communicate about SEO that's different. And then my European clients that I work with now, that I continue working with, I'm kind of hoping they will come to an interest into entering Chinese market. That's not been happening yet. Interestingly, more Chinese companies want to go abroad at the moment than Western companies want to enter China these days for political, economical, and other reasons that we're not going to get into. So yeah, very, very interesting two worlds.
Yes, yes. And regarding this is an interesting question because we know obviously the big brands, Chinese brands are like you know, Shein, Temu, etc., because they are substantially invading our house with their sales and their products, but also our social media stream with their announcement, etc. But usually, when a Chinese brand wants to enter in the Western market, so doing international SEO toward Europe, United States, and other parts of the world, what are their main concerns that you notice that are different maybe from the concern that a Western company has when decide to go international in international SEO or improving their international visibility?
The main concern is that the average Chinese client has very, very little understanding about Google SEO. And they might have heard something here and there, but they're very, very much black hat centered and focused. And that they think that's the base for any SEO activity. And selling them the idea that we want to do things qualitative way. And we don't want to just create hundreds of blog posts a month. And that the number of posted pieces on their blog is not a KPI. it really boggles them, because they often worked with Chinese agencies that want to sell them Google SEO and have no experts that actually have been based or worked with the Western agencies. So coming to them with this whole concept of quality and human written quality and stuff like that, it's not landing very well in the very first place. But that's mostly because Baidu is just so black hat related and so not SEO oriented that they just don't understand that there can be such a different ecosystem out there. They just compare Google to Baidu all the time.
I see. So this is also for us can be on the flipping the side, it can be very difficulty in the sense that, okay, not that black hat is not something existing in also for Google and other search engines, and now even for LLMs, which are really easy to spam. But on the other side, whenever you try to educate marketers and other SEO about the difference now, the differences between how a Google and Baidu are working, what kind of bigger differences apart these almost 99% of black hat SEO used for ranking on Baidu that you just told, what are the main differences that SEO should consider? Which can be interesting now because now we are returning to a mental framework where we need to not just think in Google, but we need to think in many possible surfaces. So if, let's say, Zara is going to target China and Baidu, what Zara should consider especially?
Great question. I would say the biggest difference is the fact that I'm going to expand this black hat thing, because black hat is one element, but Baidu has just no limits as it comes to pushing their own results and as it comes to pushing ads. So in Google, we really have it good because maximum of 4 ads, it's not that much compared to how Baidu SERP can look like, which is often, 4 at the top and then many more in the bottom. And then in the middle, it's Baidu's own products like Baidu Shopping and Baidu Wikipedia and Baidu whatnot, because they have equivalent of anything Google has and probably even more of own digital products that they just shamelessly push in the results. So I think the realization that doing SEO in China for Baidu limits the space you are fighting for. Therefore, you're not even playing the same game. And then on top of that, the fact that Baidu is just very China centered. There's no international interest, ambition, or infrastructure at all, because it's only standardized for simplified Chinese, not traditional. So one type of writing and one language which is Mandarin. So Cantonese is not supported, which means that you'd stop thinking about international SEO when you enter Baidu and you'd start to do Baidu SEO and you just analyze one country, one language, because English queries are just non-existent. Obviously, if you went to Baidu.com and typed something in English, you'd get results, but this is just not an engine optimized for this kind of query because they just don't appear. I mean, no foreigners in China really would use Baidu. They always use Bing, and Chinese people just don't have a custom of searching in other language than their own.
Interesting what you were saying about the Baidu search features. In fact, when I was preparing my very long article previewing how could Google integrate the search features it has in the search into AI mode in order to make AI mode the default surface for Google search, I found some sources saying that Google was really looking at how Baidu is working in order to understand how to embed substantially the features in a seamless way and even further maintaining people inside Google. Do you think that this sort of consideration can be considered realistic? Do you see maybe if you have a better use, more common use, but probably the average people watching us as of using Baidu, do you see something that okay, Google is starting to do something that I already see in Baidu?
It's a great question. Actually, it takes me back to the day we last met in person, which was in Madrid during Google Search Central Live. And a funny anecdote, I was there after the official event finished, and Google engineers who stayed and hanged out and Googlers and were there, we just happened to be in a conversation. And Me being me, I couldn't shut up and just talk to them about something that they were not interested in at all. But I was so excited to be there and have that conversation. And I started to geek out about other search engines than Google in the world. And I basically started to explain to them how Brave does this and how DuckDuckGo does that and how search features are different here and there. And I had two people, I don't want to say their names because I'm not sure what were the names were, but one person was Search Console and someone else was Search Quality. And they were looking at me and they're like, Brave? What's Brave? Yeah, DuckDuckGo, I heard about it once. And they're like, Baidu, yeah, there's something in China. They were just not interested at all. And I think that's when I realized they don't care about competition. They mark the standard. Maybe someone has one time checked something else on a competitive search engine to have a look how it looks like. But I don't think that's the direction they need to take. I think they just have a blank page and they just draft over that and then they add to it and then they redesign it. And they don't need to look back at anyone else at all.
Quite interesting. Maybe it's just convergence, a natural convergence from two different, let's say, point of view of what search should be, search experience should be, and one very different and one other that was very different, but ultimately for business reason of Google and Baidu are converging and substantially maybe becoming the same. And
100%
regarding,
actually to this point, if I
yes,
can add, because I find it super interesting. That's what you just said. And I think we shouldn't be surprised about Google giving us less and less clicks because platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn for more than a decade were actively changing their algorithms to keep people on the platform. And for example, for Meta, the KPI they use is time spent on the platform, not the number of users, not new registrations, but actually measuring it in minutes per day on average. So why Google wouldn't do the same? It's obviously a different product, but the KPI is pretty much the same. Just have people use your product instead of sending them away. So yeah, I would definitely say it's probably the result of a wider trend than just search
yes,
trend.
I remember it was 11 years ago when our friends in social media lived what we define the rich apocalypse, because for them, reaching organic reach was the most important thing. And from one day to the other, the organic reach of the post collapsed into substantially zero. And yes. In fact, this is something that sometimes, not so ironically, not really joking, I suggest to our SEO friends, we should ask them what they did 11 years ago, because social media marketing didn't die. And yes, there is a lot of, but even not even is only based on social ads. Paid social is not the only thing they do. So they still do
Mm-hmm.
organic, but they do another type of organic. It's what we are trying to explain in, for instance, red fishing, in saying you should use Google as a window where you are doing your zero-click marketing in order to be visible, always visible, remarkable, etc., somehow, which is what people are doing on social media timeline. It's true.
100%.
Social media has the advantage that people can interact and engage with a post organic, even if they are not so visible in the stream. Talking about the evolution, obviously AI is the biggest evolution. I want to maintain still this comparison between the China world and the Western world. Maybe also if, I don't know if you have this experience, the same experience also with countries close to China like South Korea or Japan, but let's focus maybe first on China. What do you see in terms of search behavior? We know that AI is really pushed up by China, also as a strategic politic asset, not just for marketing or something like this. So, how do you see the use of AI as a feature for search in China? And what do you see that can be also eventually similar with a Western use of AI for search?
Yeah, so I think we have to start at the very top level because main difference between the Chinese world and the West as we know it, and the user experience in the West, is the fact that the classic search has been diminishing over a longer time already before AI revolution was even heard of and thought about. Because China's unique ecosystem means that some companies don't even invest in their own website; they invest in a WeChat app, in a mini program it's called. So they are part of WeChat ecosystem. And WeChat, for those of the listeners who don't know, it's equivalent of, actually equivalent is a very unflattering description. It's a precursor of WhatsApp that has a lot more features integrated within. And all local businesses will have a WeChat account that they operate from. That probably means they don't need to invest in a website at all. And you just chat to those businesses to get anything sorted, and you send them a payment because there is a payment system integrated in that. And then you have mini apps, not different to what we would call now a progressive web app, but instead of web technology, it's using WeChat technology. And within WeChat login, you can just enter that system and be verified very quickly and get notifications and whatnot. And that's how I purchase my morning coffee. That's how I get my taxi service equivalent to Uber. And that's how I find maps. And that's how people share businesses with me. When I'm asking for an address, they don't send me the address. They send me WeChat link with maps system integrated to it. So to get from that point to future of search that we could learn from China is that search is not the only way. AI is disrupting the search as we know it, but here it's been disrupted already. So I think the user experience will be just more fragmented over time, and we will have different uh, tools and platforms for different intents. And potentially the disruption coming from AI could also mean that some social networks could try to establish themselves as this local business slash recommendation network solution instead of search or AI, because it's more user centered and connection centered. But also, yeah, I think it might be the end of the era of one single platform dominating everything in the West, because Google's monopoly is being challenged right now, and who knows what other players are going to benefit from that. Looks like maybe not direct Google competitors. It doesn't mean that Bing will just take over the market share, but maybe some other ways humans interact with businesses will appear.
Yeah, I agree. I think we are still in a passage moment from one situation to another situation. So it's like quantum, quanti, quantistic situation where one thing can be A at the same time B. So we can have still like the Google search. We have the classic search snippet links and AI overview that is pushing them 2000 pixel down. It's interesting what you were saying, baby, where this is the space, there is a space maybe for an unseen front runner that is can be the social. And maybe that's why also Meta is really pushing, for instance, its own AI Llama, which is also very good. And now it's from a month, more or less, a little more than a month, it's also in WhatsApp, which can be more interesting than having AI features in Facebook or Instagram. I think that WhatsApp, and maybe, yes, maybe when I was saying before, maybe Google search looking at Baidu for something. Maybe we should change it. Is Facebook looking at WeChat for something? And maybe this is the reality. Let's go back to Europe and to, let's say, to your Mosquito client. How are they living this change which accelerated in these past 12 months on Google search? And also with the eruption, a stronger eruption of LLMs. How are they living it? And how are you trying to reassure them, to guide them through these changes?
So I'm quite lucky in the sense that my clients really appreciate the interaction part of the collaboration. I'm not the type of SEO who sends reports on email monthly and then delivers pieces of work via email. I'm very much have a call, discuss together, look at Search Console while I share the screen and discuss the traffic, not here is a dashboard type of consultant. And I think they feel reassured because we are having conversations. I'm not telling them or I'm not informing them. I'm asking them what they want to know, what they already know, how they're seeing that conversation internally. I've had a great opportunity to speak to other stakeholders that I wasn't usually introduced to. So even in one company's case, I was speaking to their CEO just for a quick talk, 30 minutes. But to get them on board with the fact that KPIs are changing, metrics are changing. So also we shouldn't have the same expectations of how we were doing and adjust to that. And that's a very interesting conversation to be had. And I recommend it to anyone who's an external consultant to a company to get your face in front of people who are decision makers and have that conversation with them, because some of them are really unaware and others are aware from social media of people that are not you, that they follow, that are SEOs that maybe you don't really share the point of view with, right? So you want to be on top of that communication. So that's kind of my take on it. And then how are they living it? Um, I'm lucky to also work with many B2B businesses. For them, it's not the same as maybe affiliates or B2C, information on websites, and then get a piece of it by the fact that they attract people first by informational content. So I don't have much of that, which means they are very much defending themselves. And some clients are actually seeing quite a bit of traffic already, which bodes very well. They've been established brands. So it's not something I've done and I can say I have a hack. It's rather something that they've progressively developed as it comes to brand and recognition and the niche and the problem they solve. And they just taking the fruits now of that long-term communication strategy, because that's not even PR or brand. It's communication strategies they've been following. So touch wood, so far so good.
Yes, touch wood, touch wood. Your experience with B2B is something that I'm experiencing too, in the sense that with a few clients, it's a collaboration which is year long. So somehow, without even knowing, because obviously we started way before LLMs were coming out and became a thing, we were working on, yes, let's establish central position of a brand around your topics, around your services. Be authoritative about that and don't go chasing topics that are just slightly related to yours because it's useless. I mean, you don't want to have traffic from, let's say, students that are copy pasting a question and find you and enter copy the text from you and go back to Google for searching for another test question, which is horrible when you are looking at Search Console now, because if you are not aware of this behavior, you may think that, oh, this is a prompt. It's not a prompt. They copy paste the question. And yes, I saw that doing correctly this kind of long-term strategy started to immediately pay on LLMs, for instance, in term of visibility, but also in AI overview, even when it was just SGE in experimental mode. But this change of behavior, okay, we already had this situation where I remember Brandon Fishkin at Being Bounder 2018. So we are talking of quite many years ago, when he started to talk for the first time about the zero-click situation and behavior of Google, which obviously started to grow every year. And now it's more evident, especially not in our case for B2B, but yes, for B2C and publisher, that the metrics are changing. So you were talking about these need to change about how to measure the impact of a strategy and tactics related to SEO. How are you reframing the metrics in order to understand what has been successful or not, and so adjust your strategy and your tactics?
Obviously, with websites that have direct sales function within the website or a very easily measured conversions, showcasing in the data analytics of choice, GA4, different platform, if you just see a constance of that's kind of influx, or even some people have seen increases since the huge AI change because there's so many qualified leads just coming to the websites now. It's very easy to make a case that dropping clicks is not a non-issue, or even it's worked to our benefit if we see that increase. It's harder when we have a business that requires less direct contact first with the brand, and potentially measurement issues and attribution issues that they've had before have not been resolved yet. I don't know if you find that with your clients, but with my clients, still GA4 implementation has not gone so smoothly as it should have. And many of them, with crisis of whatever vision of or whatever they're dealing with financially, that doesn't allow them to invest in all the channels, sometimes meant that they leave their GA for a high level reporting at the very basic, because they don't want to invest too much in something they don't even like. So I'm still seeing outcomes of that with that attribution situation right now. But it basically means for me that whatever I was preaching 2 years and 1 year ago, which was Search Console, just trust Search Console, that's your tool, better than GA4. I had to change that slogan now, and I'm back to liking and getting friendly with GA4 again for that reason. So yeah, custom reports in the explore session with regex that matches the segment to be all the LLMs you can think of, because the wider you go, the better. And then you just list them in the detailed list to see that traffic. And then essentially measuring conversions where you can. That will be my two simplest answers to a very complex question.
Yes, in the conversion, the main conversion and the micro conversion, because sometimes business forget to tag correctly the micro conversion, because maybe the conversion is, let's say, e-commerce, it's a revenue, the basket, what is sold, but then they forget to track properly newsletter subscription, or let's say subscription to a fidelity program, something like this. These are, if you put all these kind of micro conversion and conversion, and with some clients, if obviously if they have something like HubSpot or Salesforce, for instance, the ideal would be also to match this data with the CRM data in order to make them seeing the effect post traffic, post landing in the long wave of nurturing and client acquisition and nurturing after acquisition. That is a maybe as SEO where, I mean, it was easier because we had exactly Search Console. It was with the old Google Analytics, Universal Analytics. We had the attribution and the contributed attribution for a search for organic was really easy to understand, and that's why we hate substantially GI4. But yes, now we really know GR4, or we must really have a good collaborator who is a GR4 specialist, not only for implementation, but also for reading the data and for us to ask to this person to create Looker dashboard and something like this. And going to your specific beloved topic of international SEO, there are a few things, a couple of questions that I have, but doing international SEO myself are really concerning me about how Google is evolving. One thing is the dreaded and also very polemic fact that Google is substantially translating with Google Translate, usually English sources into the AI overview in other languages. What is your opinion about this? Not only as, let's say, ethical opinion, or this is something that shouldn't be done, but what are the risks for a brand to have its English version presented, translated in Spanish in Google AI overview when they have a Spanish version, for it?
That's a great topic to untangle a bit. It makes me really upset as an English non-native speaker that grew up in Poland and then spent her last years in Spain. Because now, leaving a bit the SEO hat and putting myself into a future of search user kind of concern, it feels like our language, our way of thinking, our way of constructing phrases will just become Americanized even more than it already has, because it already happens, obviously, because of the globalization. And now it just feels like that will be another step of erasing a bit of language identity within the users, because we will not even realize how quickly we're picking up the same phrases that are not really native to our tongues. They're just, copycat versions translated. So that worries me. I don't know that statistic for Google. I don't think Google has ever shared the statistic. I know the statistic for ChatGPT. ChatGPT has been trained on 92% English speaking content for the whole operation they have. So it only shows us how disproportionate English impact is on AI training models. Obviously, there is also disproportion in the amount of accessible content in a given language. And minds that English is not the first language for the majority people on Earth. It's a second language for majority people on Earth, not the first. So that's very interesting. That's, it's just now a lingua franca in a way that we've never seen coming, I guess. And I don't think that's going to go away. So now tying it back to actual professional SEO opinion, I think Google has to sort it out. It's in some way or another because the quality of results is being impacted. And I think hreflang is not a solution that helps AI at all. It didn't work for search fully. I think Google acknowledged many times it's not perfect. It's just the best they could do with situation they're encountering. I think it will be really interesting maybe if AI tools used HTML lang tag instead of hreflang to distinguish really well the language. Maybe new text will appear to actually categorize by the dialect and locality of a specific language. And maybe there will be a lot of training to be done to actually fix that. But I don't think it's going to come anytime soon. So we already are in a situation where the fact that the training data goes so much back before we even knew any of those tools will be released. I mean, those who didn't work within those projects, right? The bias is already implanted in the whole functionality of those tools. Now, I've opened a lot of topics and possible discussion points, so feel free to guide me towards an answer or topic you would actually want to hear about. Because I
No,
think
no, I think
I'm
you
throwing a lot
open,
in.
as we say here in Spain, you open a melon.
Muchos melones.
Yes. And I think, so confronting your ideas, what you said, I think that somehow is inevitable because if we think at mom since the very beginning of its announcement back in 2020, 2021, I don't remember, it was already defined as multilingual. So it was able to practically move from one language to another without any issue and without passing from English eventually. Obviously, the index of Google, web content on the web is mostly in English. I remember Gary Healy's of Google when talking about spam quality and this kind of thing. They were saying in some countries we cannot go too far with too hard with spam policies because if we go as we are doing, for instance, in the United States, nothing is going to be shown. So because there is obviously less content produced in many languages. I think if this thing is somehow embedded in how Google is working substantially in technical terms. Yes, hreflang never work. When it works better is when you are using tricks that are going against the guidelines, like not using the canonical in combination with hreflang as Google sometimes usually suggests to do. But I think that the biggest problem for me, and this is something that brands and marketers, not just SEO, should be very vocal, is you want to offer a good experience, but you are presenting a source content which is not default for the audience that you are translating this content to. Yes, we know that people usually don't click on the links, source link in AI overview, but if they link to these pages, the impact is totally negative because they think to land on a page in their language, but we are landing in a page in English that maybe is offering something which is not available in their country. So totally bad UX and user experience in this sense, from search
Well,
to website. So it
yeah.
can be
So
also a negative impact for the linked cited sources.
I think there could be. Now I'm gonna make a wild prediction that might never go anywhere. But if I made it first, remember that conversation? I was the first one. Who
Totally.
knows if we will start instead of just international SEO as a specialty, we might have international UX as a new branch of UX design. And instead of depending on international URL setup, hreflang, internal linking, and all those things that SEOs traditionally do when they specialize in international, maybe we will have international UX personalization. Maybe the date of the era of unique URL per language and country version is over, because if AI is training and then translating and then working multimodally, maybe you're just serving the currency and a specific unique element as part of a UX design and not web experience design as we did it until now. Maybe there will be a new pathway of how to actually program websites, hopefully without JavaScript, that actually give those local variants in the source code so AI can understand what is the version for Chile, Ecuador, Panama, España, and all the other countries that share one language, and read from that and adjust it to the user as well without having to have separate URLs. Who knows? What do you think?
I think that is not crazy hypothesis, and I'm going to back it up with things that Google is already doing. We know that Google is slowly migrating all the territorial domain to google.com. And for instance, in Spain, google.es doesn't exist anymore. It's redirected to
Correct.
google.com. Not so, for instance, in google.co.uk, you can still go to google.co.uk. And what is showing to you, in fact, it's becoming more complicated to really see what you want to see in order to do SEO analysis for international SEO. Is becoming really complicated because Google is really showing to you, it's doing this sort of UX adaptation, because it goes and see on your browser, thanks to cookies, that your Google search setup is done like, I'm searching for Spain and using and Spanish is my main language. This is embedded in when we start to using Google as our default search engine. So this can be somehow the same technique that website could use in the future using cookie app, because also, if you remember, Natalia, Google renounced to switch off the interrupter to the cookie. You remember that he was saying, we are not going to use cookies anymore. And what it was 5-6 months ago, he says, no, we are still looking at the cookies because, and I think it's not just because it's a mess without the cookies, but maybe also because of this. So a brand with this website, maybe in the future can say, okay, if everything is going to be google.com, if everything is going to be chatgpt.com, and these chat LLMs that don't even think in terms of multi-country, they are eventually multilingual, but multi-country never. You have to specify that you are in a country to have some results that are consistent with your geolocalization. But in the case of Google, it's not. It just see, I was saying, country geo-targeted because it localizes you through Chrome and through your device that you are in a country, and gives you the results that you have set up in your Google search. So maybe brand can eventually do something like this kind of optimization with cookie in terms of UX and version that is presented to the user. Somehow as when we are visiting a second time Amazon, and Amazon is showing us what we have bought and searched 30 days before we search. So something like this could eventually be the future, because yes, if this way you are somehow suggesting and using the same technique that Google, obviously I think that then things like giving the opportunity to users to go to another version that they want, because maybe I'm in September, I'm going to speak at Digital Olympus, but maybe I want to see things as if I was in Spain when I land on a website. So giving still these UX good practices will still need to be followed. So yes, I think your idea is not so crazy.
But this is the thing. Like when we started in SEO, at least I did, to preach to the clients and educate them again and again that dynamic change of a language without the URL changing is the worst thing you can do, because you have all those translations that Google cannot read. And now it will be rolling back that idea and actually going a bit of opposite way. So that would be a very interesting shift. But I want to say one thing that's I think very important to say. Um, Very good parallel with what Google just did with the migration to google.com. Google does not have to position themselves in Google. So if you are listening and you are a brand owner that thinks, oh, that's a great idea, now let's do it, don't do it yet. It's not the time.
Don't do it yet. I always remember because it was a case that I discovered thanks to our common friend, Aleida Solis. If you want to do it, I think I don't remember the name of the website. I have a really blank state of mind. But I remember of a website where, independently of the country you are searching for and the version that you want to search, the home page is always the same URL, but maybe the language is Spanish for Spain, Thai for Thailand, English for US, and so on. But they had a good trick, which is okay, the home page by default, I want always to be the same clean domain name. But then in the href flag and everything else, I'm telling Google that the home page for the Spanish version is domain name slash ES. So that's why they are doing that, but also maintaining that. So that is the only potential way to do, but it's just a trick and it's just for the home page. So yes, totally agree with you. Maybe we are going to that future we have just described, but is not yet here. Maybe you can start
Yeah.
to think about it, but please remember that.
Well, if you are a UXer who's interested in international elements and they understand how different languages and alphabets work and stuff, that could be your next idea, how to design a smooth user journey between countries and markets that actually makes sense. So who knows?
Yeah, yes, exactly. So I want to change completely our conversation topic. You, as me, are a judge for many, many search awards. I want to ask you a sort of a retrospective. So from when you started to be a judge to this last year, what kind of changes you see using the entries for these awards as a mirror for how SEO or content marketing or performance marketing is evolving? What kind of evolution did you see from the first time you started to see this entry to now? This could be a good barometer of where people are going.
Oh, that's a great question. I think when I first joined the awards, that was already 3 or 4 years ago. So my period of comparison is not as large as many really established judges that have done it for decades and actually set up the whole system almost. But my view that in the last 4 years, let's say that first year automation was standing out, and some automations and some programmatic SEO was like the wow effect. Then a year later and 2 years later, it was completely normal. And now taking that automation slash programmatic slash scaling and actually giving it very human touch at some part of the process. So maybe designing the prompts or maybe quality control or maybe mixing two approaches. That's now the gist. So from just entering the era of huge scalability, now we're just kind of stepping out and deciding where scalability makes sense and when it's not actually, when it doesn't make as much sense anymore because there's better approach. And I think that's really interesting how some trends just follow and then refine themselves and then take a turn. But also it's very interesting how, especially in European and global search awards, you can see that disparity in how different markets and different cultural concepts answer to the reality. Because in some big budget campaigns, let's say UK or Ireland, that usually tend to spend more, or US, you will see a lot of big scale automation with custom made tools, and how maybe Eastern Europe or some Asian countries that take part in global search awards and work on completely different budgets with different challenges. They actually go and work with freely available or known cheap subscription tools and adjust them to what they can do, and also achieve fantastic results just on a real budget. So I think that's the two biggest learnings I've noted in the short tenure of my judging experience. How about you?
I saw something similar. And I think that what you said about programmatic and so stepping back a little from pushing too much It's also because we will really eat hard everything that can be considered an excess of programmatic. So classic scale content concept is substantially could have been called too much programmatic update. And what I've seen is, and I hope to see it even more in this new entry that we are going to eventually judge in the next month, is how very fast people started to use and return to create its own tools, which is somehow similar because when we talk about smaller budget than the classic big brands and US based campaign and something like this or UK campaign, you really need to achieve the same, but you obviously you have to be creative. And I really like to judge this small business or small SEO campaign where you see wonderful, wonderful campaigns achieved with really a lot of creativity, which it usually is inventing your own tools. And thanks God, now with AI for SEO, the best use of AI is this, is the ability that it gives us to create or our own tools very much faster. And this is an evolution that I saw. The other evolution is seeing that how the concept of content tabs, of cluster, of a more integrated strategy, and not just going boom, 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 eating one just that only one tactic, has become more common, which is seems to be the symptoms of a growing maturity that is really needed because if SEO want to survive to this change, they must really up their game. It's not anymore, I think, or it's going to be very short-lived, still relying on very easy tactics. Even if you can invest them with really floral description or flourishing description of a content market, no, you are creating thousands of blog posts for chasing the even most insignificant long tail. So I think that this is going to end, and I'm really happy for this. And people, I see that there are people that are already scaling up the game, and now they are doing things and take SEO more seriously than just going the easy way.
I 100% agree. And I just want to say that probably the people you described that look for unimportant changes and didn't really adapt and up their game, they are the same people who say that SEO is dead because the SEO they used to do is dead, and
Yeah, probably yes.
everyone who's staying up to date already, they don't have to drop whatever they've been doing and do something completely else. So for them, it's not dead just because they know what they're doing and they have for a while.
No, well, these are the people that are maybe new in the game. They call themselves GEOs and rediscovering tactics that we were using 15 years ago for spamming Google. And now we are using them as these are GEO tactics, like use H1 or let's say spam forums like there is no tomorrow, something like it, just
Yep.
because Reddit is very cited by AI overview or ChatGPT. Okay, it's almost 1 hour. Let's close here our serious talks about SEO stuff and let's talk about you. I'm going to ask you a few questions about you so people can know Natalia. And if you have Instagram, please follow Natalia on Instagram. Once because she has the best handle of the world, crap influencer, which is very self-ironic. And secondly, because she shares cool things about her life, and somehow it's really amusing. You are. What about this crap influencer? How did you came out with such an handle?
Well, I tried several other handles that unfortunately didn't go through the moderation on Instagram and were way worse. And that's the best I could do, or the worst I could do. You know, I don't usually talk about my Instagram in like a professional environment because it's totally a persona project that I do on the side. And I just post things that make me laugh. Maybe someone else laughs on the way, maybe they don't find it funny at all. But that's my main goal, aim, And I kind of live this personal life of influencing and doing amazing stuff on the budget. Basically, that's the bottom line. And yeah, if you'd like to see some of that, there's no SEO talk, no seriousness ever. Do follow me, crap underscore influencer.
Before in the introduction, one of the ChatGPT definition was SEO globetrotter or something like this. And yes, you like me, I'm Italian, living in Spain, but I also lived in other places before. You are from Poland, moved to live in Spain. Now you are substantially in another planet, living in China with that wonderful flag behind you. Can testify. So, of these three countries, even if China is quite a recent experience, what is the things that really make you feel, okay, Poland is my house, my home. Spain is also my home. And China is becoming maybe my home. So, what are the three characteristics of these three countries that you really feel, wow, I love them?
Well, I think that's a tricky question because I've not lived in Poland for the last 10 years, and I think I feel more European than Polish in many ways, just because I think God is really small now, and we really have a lot of shared European values that even coming from Poland and moving to Spain, I can feel. Just cultural codes are very similar, and I really found my way quite easily there. Of course, sometimes I also get upset about things that don't work in Spain, and I complain about tax system. But I do it more because I consider Spain home rather than anything else. But three things that I think are always the same. Well, I think it's amazing that some human beings they focus a lot about differences between countries, cultures, food, but I see similarities everywhere. For example, when you see small kids play anywhere in the world, they're all the same. They are the same kids. Doesn't matter where they're from and where they were born. And sometimes I would get those little kids that the parents push towards me, like on the street or like in a supermarket or like shopping center. And they will approach me to try to say a few words in English because they have private English classes or their parents try to teach them. And they come to me, like this 4-year-old girl last weekend, and she's like, "Hello, what's your name?" Like in one brief, because she obviously doesn't fluently speak English yet, but her parents want her to. And, this is the cutest thing that anywhere in the world where you just speak to small children, you can see we're really the same as humans. And there is a lot of importance put towards how you interact in society, how there is certain rules as it comes to who's the oldest, where they sit, who's starting to eat, and how you follow. I'm lucky enough to have a great Chinese teacher who's also teaching me those elements of everyday life. And she was explaining it to me, and I thought, I don't really think about it, but in Poland we have that too. And if you are well behaved, you probably follow very similar rules. There are slight tiny differences, but they're smaller than bigger. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I just
No,
want to say
no, it answered. It's actually a better answer than the one I was probably thinking you were going to give me. But I have another question about you, which is a really simple one. When you're okay in your morning, you're working with your Chinese client. In the afternoon, you're working with your all the other global European Western client. But what Natalia likes to do when she's not working?
I spend a lot of time learning languages. I used to do it more for fun. Now I'm really serious about Chinese. I really want to master the language very quickly. So I take classes 4 times a week. Now I'm going to tell you a trick that my teachers don't know about. I have two Chinese teachers and they don't know about each other. So I have one teacher once a week that is more of a she likes to teach English to foreigners and she just does it as a hobby. And I have 3 times a teacher that is a serious lecturer that teaches me all the grammar and pronunciation. And both of them don't know I do the other one. So they all give me all the compliments and I'm doing, according to them, so well just because I have that extra learning chance with the other one that they don't know about. I just figured out that I do like spending time with people. I'm a very extroverted person for an SEO. I hear that a lot. So instead of spending time alone at home and trying to learn the way that is not productive for me, I just do it with people because meeting with a person and showing to them what I've learned is the biggest motivator for me. And when I'm not when I'm not doing that, which is still more often than not, I try to go to the gym. I started to take very seriously my health literally after the pandemic. I've never exercised before for my whole life. I wasn't a person who even ran to a bus when it was 100 meters away because I was too lazy. And then I turned 30 and I said, enough with that shit. Sorry, can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, yes,
Enough
you
with
can.
that stupidity. I'm gonna take care of myself. That's a puzzle missing from my development, professional or personal. And I took sports very seriously. And now I go hit the gym. I do weight training because I hear that's the best thing a woman can do. And many women are scared to get muscles. And I'm the opposite. I wanna get the muscles. I'm proud of my bicep. So I became a gym rat.
Well, I must take you as an example. Maybe my dislike for exercise is too big, even even to try to do something. But I always try to improve myself also in that way. Thank you, Natalia. It was a real pleasure to have you as a guest on the third session. I really hope maybe in the future to do another episode. Maybe let's say in the future you change another country and you started to say, here in South Africa, things are working like this. Maybe.
Who knows?
Exactly. Thank you. And thank you all you that have watched the episode. Remember, let me do the YouTube stuff thing. Remember to ring on the bell, subscribe to the channel, and give it a like to this episode because it was really good. Thank you.